The humans arrived just the other day. We welcomed them with open arms and warm drinks as they climbed down into the trenches by the hundreds. They were new members of our alliance, and not too much was known about them. Pretty much all that was well known is they had a history of war, a grand culinary spread, and a sense of curiosity and wonder that was barely matched by any. Nobody knew what the galaxy was in for, particularly us, Trench Guard Group Z-43. We were on a main planet fighting against the Concordance. They had long held disdain for all of us, and had held back many technological advancements that would make the whole universe a better place. That was not what made them evil to us, though. It was their disdain that eventually led them to believe that the best way to spread their knowledge was to conquer the whole galaxy planet by planet, species by species. They would share their knowledge by uplifting us. Really, they just wanted slave labor. It was a conflict that had lasted for generations, with this trench line being one of many that had been held, unmoving by both sides. Both of us only had the bare minimum of troops to hold it with, neither making a charge across the dead lands, since it was known that any such charge would be costly. We were a placeholder, and so the new humans were sent to us to help us in our mission. Why not? It was not like you had to be skilled to sit in a well-dug trench and watch a killing field. We never even sent scouts out anymore. The humans were odd, though. They looked around with sad faces, as if they were sent to hell rather than one of the cushiest positions in the whole war. All we were there for is to be warm bodies, so that way someone was at the trench to prevent the other side from just walking over and taking it. As for the humans, though, they did something weird. As soon as they got down into the trench with us, they started lining up their rifles in strange discs with straps on the wall of the trench facing the Concordance. We had heard that we were slowly gaining ground against the Concordance, whining more and more often, but the higher-ups refused to tell us why. We would soon find out. 2 days passed, and soon the humans lined up, commanders facing the massive line of human flesh. The rest of us stopped to look at just what this new species was doing. "Just like our ancestors, we will make the charge," a commander yelled out, his voice traveling down the trench. "Just like them, we will run into no man's land. Just like them, many of us will fall. Just like them, the odds are not in our favor. However, unlike them, our cause is just. Unlike them, we are ready. Unlike them, we have the wind of justice to protect us and to force us forward. We will show the slavers just what it means to go against humans, and we will prove our place in this alliance, in this galaxy, and protect those who welcomed us." Shouts started to echo down the trench in agreement. "Ears!" he yelled, and the humans slid on their ear protection. We followed them and slipped ours on just in time. The ground shivered, then shuddered, then shook as what could only be described as the explosion of a star sounded out from behind our trench. We all got low watching the humans put the discs on one arm and hold their rifle with the other as countless shells whistled over our heads. It was an artillery barrage that would be enough to flatten a sprawl. While we laid low, the humans approached the wall. An hour passed of non-stop barrage with the humans just standing there, staring at the wall before the commander spoke over the comms. "Ready up! Final shells being loaded. Now, soldiers, where are we going?" The humans all answered in unison like a chant for a god long gone. "Over the top. When do we stop? When we drop. Where do we drop? On their heads or when we're dead?" The chant repeated over and over, each time with more and more passion. Finally, the world grew silent as the guns stopped. Nothing could be heard, as if the planet itself was forced into silence in shock. Then we heard it, the sharp, piercing cry of a whistle, then two more, then the cry of hundreds. The humans let out a roar that matched the cannons they had just fired, then climbed over the top into the forbidden lands, shields crackling out of their discs as they formed a massive shield wall, then ran. All of us non-humans ran to the wall and looked over it in shock as the wave of humans charged, roaring in fury at the trench line across the wastes. Silence greeted them as the other side was still recovering from what had to be the largest artillery barrage the whole planet had ever seen before. Then probably another moment of pure confusion as nobody would dare charge. It would be death, pain, misery, and it would fail. But here were the humans, running across it as if death was nothing. Finally, the laser emplacements that were not ripped apart whined to life, and the crimson lines slid across the shield wall. The shields mostly held, holding back the lethal sweeps as they kept going. Not all held, though, and some humans let out screams as they were cut apart as their shields failed, leaving them to die in the mud like we knew they would. But the humans did not stop. The humans did not turn around. The humans just ran faster. The humans yelled louder. The laser emplacement started to explode. At first, it was due to human artillery not being done just yet, but rather waiting for the charge to start before launching more in order to precisely target the guns. Then we noticed a change. The blasts became fireballs, and one of our spotters reported it was due to battery overuse. The Concordance was firing so long, so frantically, they were overusing their guns, causing them to explode, killing their crews. Soon the cracks, pops, and hums of small arms fire filled the air. I stole a pair of binoculars and watched as the other trench finally broke out of their trance and started to frantically fire on the human charge, desperate to stop the wave of suicidal humans rushing right at them. Their powerful weapons cutting a few humans down as their well-abused shields finally started to give away. Those behind the shield wall flipped on their own shields to help take their allies' places, but some were still lost. This finally caused the humans to stop. However, it was not in fear. I watched as the humans knelt in the open and returned fire at the Concordance trench guard, blowing the heads off of any who dared stick their heads up. For those taking cover in the trench, many humans pulled metal balls from their vests, pulled a metal ring, then tossed the balls into the trenches. We watched as explosions tossed dirt and gore from inside the other trench, as the human grenades found places that the artillery failed to reach. By the time the humans started to drop into the trench on the other side, a feat that we had known was impossible before, the Concordant soldiers were frantically trying to climb out to run. We heard the booms of the human invention, the trench gun, that flung walls of lead down the trenches, ripping apart any Concordant soldier in front of the human. They were not done. Another whistle sounded, and another wave of humans climbed up the walls and rushed across land that should have been the graves of their friends. They had lined up while we were too focused on the first wave to even notice them. They roared as they charged almost unchallenged across the mud and gore of the wastes with them, not even flinching as they ran over the dead bodies of their friends and fellow humans, over the skeletons of countless other soldiers from both sides that had been left with us too scared to go fetch them, their run unending as their victory was laid bare. They didn't even make it halfway through the wastes before their allies on the other side started to climb back up the walls of the Concordance trench line. However, it was not to return to us. They started to run after the soldiers retreating with their shields, now more than enough to block the very loose small arms of the fully panicked Concordance. By the time the second wave dropped in the main trench of the Concordance, it was over. We won. A trench line that had held for decades? Taken. An enemy more powerful than us? Broken. A feat thought to be too costly? Done with human blood as the payment. It was as if the humans had no fear of all about dying. They just ran over the deadliest place on the planet as if it was charging into a small, barely guarded field. Once we managed to catch up to the humans who were sorting through the captured Concordance soldiers and their supplies, I pulled the commandant aside and asked why and how. His answer? It was the only way we could win. If some of us had to die, then so be it. We promised to defeat the Concordance and end their horrible slavery and ways. And to most humans, when we promise that we put our lives on the line, a human soldier will charge to our deaths to make sure our buddies made it home safe, and with what they do. It would be an honor to die for a cause this good. We gave you our word, and we will give our lives to make sure that our word is kept. Across the galaxy, the human charge became legend, their yells making the vacuum of space echo as the humans put their own lives at risk for victory. They did not always win, but every victory brought more and more fear to the Concordance. Soon, just hearing a human yell was enough to make even a seasoned Concordance veteran give up their position and surrender in pure fear. Years after the war ended and the slaves were freed, humans were made council members of the Alliance. That was a feat that normally would take generations to come close to accomplishing, if they ever managed to do it. A position held only by those who were known to only have the best interests of the galaxy at heart and could be fully trusted to guide all to a better tomorrow. A statue was put in the Alliance capital of the war. A statue of humans running forward, their faces twisted as they yelled their challenge to death itself. A few humans were pausing, though, pausing to reach down and help the rest of us to our feet. I fear the human charge, but as for the passion and honor that causes it, I hope one day the rest of us could be more human,